Hey guys, Brent Messmer here with Technical Taekwondo. Today's video we're going to be talking about some basic blocking skills. We're going to be talking about the low block, the outer forearm block, or what we call the hammer block, the inner forearm block, the high block, as well as the inside middle block. If you have different terms for these, they're still familiar enough you understand what these techniques are. The blocks that we're doing need to be taught in order to do the first three Gyuks. But before we do, we're going to be talking about our stances. Generally, when we're teaching these blocks, we do them either out of natural stance or we do them out of front stance. If your stance is incorrect, it's going to take away from the power, from the structure of the individual block. This is where it kind of crashed into the personal pet peeve of mine of this whole concept of sport Poomsae. I completely disagree with the sport Poomsae stances. I have tested them. They don't work. They're garbage. It's almost to me as if a group of soccer moms got together and said, hey, let's do these stances this way because I think they look prettier. Without any kind of analysis of why you should change a stance. And to me, the only reason I change a stance is because if I do it this way, it's stronger. If I do it this way, it's weaker. Are there any benefits of doing it the weaker way? Is it more mobile? Is it faster? No? Then I'm going to do it the way that's stronger. That's how I look at it. I'm going to test it and check it out. So we're going to first start off by our natural stance. So when we are in our natural stance, feet are shoulder width apart. Okay? So if I'm going towards the camera, you can see my feet are shoulder width apart. Toes are both forward facing. The front foot, the lead foot, is direct forward facing. The back foot is slightly turned to the outside. I do not want to have it 90 degrees to the outside, and I don't necessarily need it to have it straight forward. It's going to be turned out just a little bit because that's just a little bit more comfortable. Think about when you push off that back leg, that's where your power is coming from. Weight distribution on a natural stance is 51% on the front leg, 49% on the back. So if my weight is even, I'm not settled into the stance yet. But when I shift that little bit of weight forward and a little bit of bend to that lead foot, okay, that puts the power moving forward. And I want to do that when I synchronize it with the block, okay? So when I'm measuring the stance, I'm going to be measuring 6 to 8 inches from my heel to my big toe. Okay, so not diagonal, but from here to here. Okay, it's about 6 inches. I'm only 5'7", so mine's going to be on the shorter side. If I was 6'6", I would probably have more of an 8-inch distance on my gap between my heel and toe. Okay, stepping is always going to be done with balance. Okay? Meaning when I step, I'm going to bring my ankles close together and then I'm going to sweep it back out in a kind of a half arc or crescent shaped step. So very, very simple, just in and out. Okay? And the reason I do that is it maintains balance. If I throw a kick, I come back to center and then I step into the next motion. All right? Well, the way we teach our turns is think about two different railroad tracks. I step across onto the one track, I turn, pivot my feet, look for the train coming behind me, and I step across. So it's 1, turn, 2, and then I execute whatever block that I'm doing. Front stance, weight distribution is 70% on the front leg, 30% on the back. My back leg is locked out straight. Okay? I'm never bending the back leg, and my heel is firmly on the mat, which locks that into place. The width of front stance, okay, so side to side, should be wider than shoulder width. We used to say shoulder and a quarter to shoulder and a half, depending on how you're built, but that's not really an accurate measurement either. So just think of it as you want it wider than shoulder width. If you are only shoulder width, okay, now you're kind of getting to that sport Poomsae, and you don't have the stability left to right, and you're starting to lose power at this point. If you go too short, somewhere between walking stance and front stance, again, now you're getting to that sport Poomsae and you're losing way too much power. Okay? The actual sport Poomsae front stance is weaker than our natural stance, in case you were wondering. The width of the front stance should be wider than shoulder width. So when I measure my front stance, okay, I'm going to drop down to one knee, ball the foot, fist, stack them, and then I'm going to draw a line from my heel straight across the top of my hand. I need to make an adjustment. I can move it forward or back wherever I need to. But when I get up, this is important. Leave your back toes, ball the foot on the mat, and just press that heel to the ground. If I slide it or move it up, I just kind of, it's like taking a ruler and then moving it before you mark it with a pencil. It doesn't work. You need to keep that foot in position so that you can base your step off of it. So again, drop down measure, 2 fists and a knee, and press that up, and just to check your stance as far as, and again, you want to be slightly wider than shoulder width. When I'm walking forward, it's the same as natural stance. I come in for center and sweeping the foot out, and I want to press the knee to the outside. Don't want the knee in. Even straight is okay, but you're going to get more power by pressing the knee to the outside. Okay? So we're going to first start talking about low block. So when we execute our low blocks, we're crossing the hands. The hand that is blocking is on the inside, and turning the hips and sweeping down across your belly. Okay, the bigger your belly it is, the easier it is to make sure that it's there, because you actually want to rub it. You skinny guys don't get that option. Yeah. So let's get into some technical stuff. I'm actually bracing and pushing against, giving that counter resistance, and then releasing as I come through. The arm position itself, the arm is not locked out straight. There's a slight bend to it. Think about when you're standing up normally, your arm is slightly bent. It's not locked out straight. There's a slight bend to it. Also, it's probably turned inwards, meaning this way, about 30 degrees, just standing naturally. That is naturally a strong position that you can take advantage of with your low blocks, because the alignment, the muscle and the bone alignment is the same. So I turn the hips, coming through. Again, arm is not locked out straight. There's a slight bend to it, and there's a slight turn to the hand or the wrist, however you want to look at it. When I project and push my low block, I want to think about pushing my pinky knuckle out away from me, downwards at a 45 that way. So when I spread my shoulders, I want to push in that direction, if that makes sense. Okay, so turn the hips, drive down, fire that low block. So when you're executing your low block, your shoulders are what is called half facing. So full facing would be shoulders even, straight facing forwards. Half facing, which is a lot of the blocks that you're going to be doing, where you're somewhere about 45 degrees, so your hips, your shoulders are in alignment. On low block, the lead hand is what's actually called the obverse hand. So an obverse low block, which is same side as the dominant bent knee, okay, I turn, line my shoulders, my hips, my stance, all going in the same direction. You can execute a reverse low block, but it gets a little bit weird, and this would be something that we would not really mess with until a student is blue or brown, somewhere in that range. But when I do the reverse low block, reverse means opposite the dominant bent knee. Remember, front stance, dominant bent knee is the lead foot. 70% of my weight is on that leg. That's what makes the dominant leg. So reverse, opposite, I'm going to be doing my low block across this way. So my shoulders are half facing, but opposite of my legs. This is a really awkward position. That's why we save it for the advanced ranks. Okay? But the mechanics of the block are the same. Okay? Palm is facing out, palm is facing in, so I can get that twisting of the wrist, okay, and turning my hips opposite of the stance. Okay? So it's a little bit different, it's a little bit weird. It can be done. Structurally, and with the muscles and the bones, it will still work. Not as well, but it does still work. The next one we're going to talk about is the high block. High block will only work obverse. Reverse high block does not have the alignment. There's nothing there. It will not work. Okay? So on the high block, I want about a 60-degree angle on my elbow. Never lay it across flat. You want a nice sharp angle here coming up this way. Do not turn the palm down. Turning the palm upwards, coming at an angle this way. And again, when I'm projecting the energy, I want to project it pressing up. Shoulders are square, full facing forward. The high block also, when I chamber, comes from the inside. So it passes right up past my nose and blocks straight up. Okay, turning the hips and coming straight up. So when you're executing the high block, you turn the hips from the side, same as you would any of the other blocks. Again, the hand that's blocking is on the inside. When I chamber, I shoot that straight up. Okay, make sure you're not looking up or you're looking down. Any type of bend to the neck is going to flex your spine, which is going to make your block weaker. Okay, so keeping that straight as you drive through. So don't look up at their hand or whatever you're blocking. Eyes straight, focus forward. The third block on this video is going to be the hammer block, or what we call which is also called the outer forearm block. You can do it obverse, you can do it reverse, similar to the low block. It's generally taught obverse just because it's easier. The chamber is the same as the low block and the high block. Okay, palm is facing away, opposite. The non-blocking or the negative hand is facing away from you. The blocking hand is facing towards you. Turning the hips, okay, and driving that out. Do not turn it fully flat out. There's about a 30-degree bend, very similar to the low block. Okay, and you want a nice sharp angle here, almost a 90-degree angle from your bicep to your forearm. Okay, so don't have it too sharp, and you definitely don't want it too flat out this way. Think about sweeping the area in front of your midsection. Okay, so that's your hammer block. I'm doing this out of front stance. You can do this out of natural stance if you want to shorten it up and practice it that way. But turning the hips and get everything timed together. So you got the negative hand pull into the hip at the same time this is. And remember, I'm settling into that stance, whether it's walking stance or front stance. I hit that weight transfer to that lead leg on impact of the block. So on the low block, high block, and hammer block, the reason we chamber from the inside is so that on impact, I'm hitting more at a 90-degree angle. Okay? If I'm chambering from the outside, I might intersect at about a 70-degree angle, and that might miss. If I hit it at a 90-degree angle, that's naturally a stronger angle, and it's going to give me naturally more power without doing any extra work, just chambering on the inside versus the outside. It's just a more direct angle of attack, which is why we block and chamber from the inside. The next one we're going to talk about is the outer middle block, or inner forearm block. This gets a little weird on the words. The outer forearm block and the inner forearm block. The nickname for these, the outer forearm is the hammer block. The inner forearm block, nickname is an outer middle block. So the outer middle block's a little bit different. We used to teach the outer middle block like you're grabbing a sword at your belt and flipping it up, because that was an easy way to teach little kids on how to do it. If that helps you think about that, I'm grabbing a sword over here, okay, and coming out with it, and I'm flipping it up, great. But on the outer middle block, both palms are facing down. And from here, I'm doing that positive negative pressure with my hands, okay? And then the outer middle block releases coming from the outside. So this is the first block that's not coming from the inside of the hands. This is the first block that's coming from the outside. Doing this, the reason it comes from the outside is it's a bigger circle motion on the out. It's not as much direct line. So I want to turn the hips, and I'm covering that big circle motion. And the angle of this, again, you have about a 30-degree angle here, okay? But I'm projecting the impact of the block. So I'm here, and when I press the shoulders, I'm thinking about pressing upwards in that direction. To basically, if I just point my middle finger, that's the direction I want to go. But I spread the chest on impact, again, shifting the weight onto that front leg. Okay? So turn the hips, driving it through. That is the inner forearm block, or again, outer middle block, whichever one you're going to call it. So the next block we want to talk about is the inside middle block. So inner middle block is probably one of the more complicated blocks that's in pretty much all Taekwondo systems. First see this in Taekwondo Iljan. We're applying this a little bit differently. I've seen this applied many different ways, and I've been taught a couple different ways to do it. When I first was taught, the telephone thing to your ear and then swing it in. We're going to break this down as far as how we teach it with the correct muscle and bone alignment. So when you're doing the inner middle blocks, chamber, the arm comes straight out to the side, just about shoulder height. I'm currently trying to fix this, so on occasion on the video you may see me chambering higher. And I have been doing that from doing Taebek, where I'm coming high and chopping down, which isn't an incorrect way to do the inner middle block, but it's not the correct way to do it either. So when you're chambering, you want the inner middle block chamber to be straight, basically shoulder height, as I'm coming out here, as I swing that across. And again, whether you're doing obverse, reverse, doesn't really matter. For Taekwondo Iljan, Ijan, and Samjan, the inner middle motions that you're going to be doing are all out of a reverse motion. So we're lifting that hand up, pulling that negative hand in, bringing that elbow so that my forearm and fist are even straight on that center line. The shoulders are square on an inside middle block. So there's actually 3 different hip actions to accomplish this on the inner middle block. And the inner middle block will work obverse and it will work reverse. You will actually see this in the Taeguk series. Taeguk Iljan, Ijan, and Samjan, they're all reverse inner middle blocks. And then Taeguk Sajan is the first time you see it as an obverse block. It doesn't matter how this is thrown. Inner middle block has power, front leg or back leg. It's as long as you have the hip action correct. So you want to square the shoulders. To do this, there's 3 different hip actions that happen. 1 on the chamber, 2 as I throw it, and then 3 as I settle that hip back forwards. So 1, 2, 3 on every single inner middle block. Okay? So your belt's gonna jiggle a little bit, or your belly's gonna jiggle a little bit, depends how big you are, like me. I have the first hip action as I chamber. As I bring it in, I have the second, and then I bring it back to square the shoulder as the third hip action. Okay? So again, going this direction, chamber is to the side. I turn the hips as on that chamber, and then I bring it back. Okay? So chambering, 1, 2. It's locking that in. Okay? Again, on impact, I'm sinking into the stance. So I drive and sink, pressing that knee out to the outside a little bit if I'm in a front stance, locking that weight forward if I'm in a walking stance or a natural stance, whichever term you prefer. So we got Joe here today to help us test these different blocks. Joe, go ahead and step out front stance, do low block. All right, so Joe's obviously been with me for a while. He's got his red belt, so he knows how to do this. So we're not gonna go into a lot of correcting. We're just gonna demonstrate how we test these, okay? So when you're doing your low block, you want to actually think about pushing to the outside, almost towards your pinky knuckle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press inwards at a 90-degree angle, representing the force that would be encountered when you're intercepting a front kick, which is what low block is designed for. Okay, so I'm pressing in this way, and he's pressing out that way. Okay. Now, when it comes to the structure and alignment, this is the stuff I want you guys to test. Haven't changed anything else, but I took away the wrist rotation, which obviously changes the angle of the arm. So now he's gonna push and, go ahead. Okay, so I pushed this about the same. You could tell that I moved the arm way more the second time. This is the kind of stuff that I would like you guys to test before you tell me it's a bunch of BS. So the next one we're gonna do is the high block. So we wanna make sure that your knuckles are to the left side of your ear, right side of your ear. Get the right hand, my left, your right. Because if I'm here, this whole half of his head is left exposed. So we want to be here. Again, notice he has that turn. He's not palm up, he's not palm down. Okay? The hammer fist part of the hand is almost facing upwards at an angle this way. Shoulders are square, means the hips are square, knee is pressed to the outside. Okay? So when I apply the pressure, again, I'm going to apply pressure straight down. Cool. Okay? And again, when we start playing with this, we can turn this a little bit, okay? And it just folds right to his forehead. Okay? We can put it back where it belongs and look up at it, and it folds right away. So the looking up at it, he's putting a curve in his spine, and that's going to break the alignment of the block. Go ahead and shorten your stance to the sport Poomsae stance. This is why I hate these. Okay? Didn't change the block. I think it's worse than when you looked up at it. This is why I want people to test and verify their techniques to see if they work or not. If you are doing a block or a strike and you have not tested it either on the Makawari or you have not tested it on the heavy bag or a target, you don't understand the motion. So again, I encourage you guys to do the same. The next one we did is the hammer block. Hammer block or outer forearm block. Yes, I'm correcting his form just a little bit. He needs more bend to his elbow. So this is your outer forearm. Again, when he's projecting, he wants to spread his chest and push the arm, not straight that way, but actually extending upwards at an angle that way as far as his pressure goes, okay, as I'm pushing inwards. Okay? I ain't moving him. Yeah, I know he's bigger than me, but I don't care. Outer middle block, same hand. Also notice the shoulders are, again, half facing on this. Okay? So again, same idea as the hammer block. He's projecting towards his knuckle is kind of direction upwards that he wants to spread his chest and extend that up. Okay? So coming in. Okay? And again, this is just how we test these. Another way to test these, I would recommend when you make impact, turn your hand where it's on the meat side or put your forearm gear on. Okay? Because if you go bone on bone, if he hits it right, he's going to light up the nerves. Because when you are blocking a punch, okay, you're either aiming for this nerve, I did it in the wrong order, or this nerve. Okay? And as you get more practice, you get better at hitting those nerves as those punches are coming in. Okay? Again, this is not something a white belt is going to be aiming for, but black belts should be aiming for different pressure points. If I'm hitting this pressure point up here, I've almost stopped the punch too late. So be aware of that. Go ahead and chamber up. And this is where you're going to see the timing of it. He needs to turn the hips, fire the block, and sit into the stance all at the same time. And all I'm going to do is come in for that. And that's all we're doing. Because, yeah, it hurts. Even with the soft side. If I put my pads on, we might do more. But that's another way to test. Okay? I would recommend you getting the forearm pads on because you don't want to take a lot of those. When they get everything tuned up and they get the timing on it, this just hurts. It's like you have enough power to break boards with these. And I'm letting them bang on my arms. You get the idea, okay? Again, same idea, okay? As he's pushing. Now this one we're not projecting upwards. You're actually wanting to think about squeezing in, okay? So this hip is coming back to me as this hand is coming across. So you have that action where everything is turning and coming inwards, okay? So I'm pressing out, okay? And go ahead and change hands, okay? Same thing. Right. So you can see the inner middle block doesn't care if it's obverse or reverse, front hand, back hand. It works both ways. Punches, I would rather have students demonstrate on the bag, but you can have him put his punch up as well, square the shoulders, get everything locked in, and kind of put your hand like a catcher's mitt and apply pressure there. But to me, that is something that should be done on a target, where they learn that bouncing of the hips and driving in, and plus by hitting targets, they help strengthen their wrist. They get used to taking impact on the target, or better as a Makawari. If you have a Makawari, You should never walk up to it first time and just blast it 100% power. Okay? That's not what these are designed for. These are designed for conditioning, not to show people how hard you can hit. It's a good target, okay? Bouncing that up and driving in. Okay? Test everything. Trust but verify, right? That's pretty much what we have for you guys today. Thank you for watching. If you like what we're doing, please hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, God bless and keep on kicking.